Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Maddie B. Big news out of Baltimore to start off the show. Lamar Jackson was at the beach playing football, tackle football nonetheless, it looked like. He got tackled into do you call it a wave runner or a jet ski?
Jet ski.
I was always wondering that. People were debating it online. But talk about putting yourself in the worst possible situation, because they're talking about finally bringing sports back, and it's to the point where now if you come back, they're making you sign a waiver. Like they want everyone to come back and basically waive away your rights. And I feel bad for the college guys because there are people coming out with letters, like we talked about last week at Duke, saying, let's not pay the players. But while you're here, why don't you just sign this away in case you get sick and something happens to you? Like, we want you to know that it's your right to be here. Because let's be honest, how many people actually get drafted? Not that many. So the only people that should be signing those are like the top 5% that have a chance.
But I'm surprised that they get away with that, because if they're going to be putting it out there that you can make money, you can profit off of your likeness, and they're allowing you back on campus, why they're going to say, well, yeah, you can do all this other stuff, but then come back and say, oh, but we want you to sign these waivers in case you happen to contract the virus.
And I think it's more, I don't even know if it's from a legal perspective of someone coming back later, or like a lot of the times these kids, they might not even be 18. So if they sign, are they getting their parents to sign? Because even like if you go to the high school level, I know they're doing the same type of thing across the country, if you want to talk about that. But at some point, these guys aren't guardians. So how much of a say does it actually have? And do you still need that parent permission slip? Because a lot of times, even in high school, I remember if we played baseball in a different town and my parents went to the game, I would have to get them to sign a waiver for me to even ride home with them.
Yep.
And so I don't know if you want to talk about that a bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, with sports starting to come back in Pennsylvania, we're now allowed, with the states opening up with the coded system that we're green, PIAA has allowed teams to be able to practice. Now in a situation like our school where the buildings themselves aren't open, we're allowed to use the outside facility, so we're allowed out on the practice field and we can do things outside. But before that's done, the kids have to have permission slips signed that they're aware of the risks associated with participation. They're taking safety precautions. Like if you're going to show up for a practice or a training session, then you have to bring your own water. We can't have the team supplied water where people are sharing it, because you always have a couple people that are nasty and put their mouth over the water bottle. So they're trying to take precautions with that. It's trying to restrict the amount of contact. I have to wear a mask if I'm going to be around players, and trying to keep things as social distant as possible. So it's good that we're starting to take the steps to get back open. I think if they don't allow you that opportunity to do it, then we're just going to permanently be frozen in this state of we can't do anything.
Yeah, it's going to be different everywhere. And I think that's what makes it so tough, because you have different states having different guidelines. And I know at least for high school, it's a little bit easier because the state has one guideline. The state also has one athletic association for high schools. And so they're able to kind of pick and choose what they want to show and what they want to happen, what travel, what restrictions, how many games, things like that. But once you start to get into the upper levels, it's going to be totally different depending on what team's playing where, and even if states allow it. Like the Steelers are set to play in the Hall of Fame game against the Cowboys, and the state of Ohio has already said if it happens at all, like they don't even think it's going to happen, that there are not going to be fans allowed in the stadium. So then it comes back to the NFL. Are they willing to move that to a different venue? It's not like venues are getting used. So it's not like they're going to be competing with a Taylor Swift concert or something. Like nothing's happening. So they can easily pick up and move. It just really comes down to, okay, what are the logistics of that, and how are we going to keep the players and teams safe? Because every week we hear about more coaches and players have it in every level. Colleges are saying like so-and-so had it. 5 players, I think we talked about last week at Alabama, had it. Now it's getting spread at different schools. Coaches are saying in the NBA that they had it. And at this point, some people just don't even want to come back and risk it.
Well, and kind of going back with that, as teams are getting back in practice, and one of the other precautions that they're doing is there's going to be like temperature checks before you check in, and different waivers where they're asking you, do you have a recent loss of taste? Are you feeling nauseous? Do you feel sick? Do you have, they're checking your temperature to see if you have that fever. If you're over 100.4, then you're going to be sent home. So there's some of the things that they're going to be taking and doing to try to keep the preventative stuff from happening. But it's just going to, I think it's a matter of guessing and then just seeing what's going to work.
And you have to be confident in your players to take that seriously. I mean, we talked about that Last Dance documentary with Michael Jordan. Scottie Pippen didn't even care enough to take his surgery in the offseason. He wanted it on company time. How many players are going to come in and be like, yep, got a fever, I'm going to have to sit out a week or two, knowing that they're going to get paid or whatever, because it's built into their contract.
Oh, I'm sure that's something that you're going to be seeing. It's something that's going on. I think that's why you're seeing some of the arguments and things with Major League Baseball that we talked about last week. For players under contract and different things like that, they're still making money.
I'll say this. I don't think baseball's coming back. I was talking with a friend of mine today, and they didn't think that it was going to happen. And I said, no, I 100% agree. Because what's going to happen is they're pushing towards what was supposed to be the next lockout, where the owners are trying to get some semblance of salary cap in there. Because you have like high profile athletes like LeBron James talking about it, like whenever a big baseball player gets a deal that dwarfs whatever money he makes, he has to make his up in endorsements, which he does a great job of. And baseball players, they usually don't get that. But if the cities, or like if Major League Baseball wants to keep it going, what happens is you have the big cities. They are the ones that attract all of the attention. They're the reason the sport's kept alive because of the TV contracts. They really can't expand. Like at some point, Matt, there are no new New York Yankees fans. Like they just can't get any more reach. So how are you going to bring someone else into the sport? The only way that you can do that is if you get other cities involved. I mean, realistic or not, that's how it's going to happen. Like I would never cheer for the Yankees just because I don't care. I know the history behind them and everything, but like if you want other fans from other areas to show up and be excited, you need to expand or have other cities get competitive. Some of those teams, like even looking at the Oakland Athletics and everyone talking about how great they did, what fan is really going to just be a fan of the team whenever their ceiling, because of them not spending money, is a division championship? Like that would be like being a fan of a college football team or whatever, knowing that you've just kept a coach around for a decade that has met 3 wins max or something like that. Like it just doesn't happen. That's why the smaller schools usually cycle through coaches like crazy, because they're either there, they start to win and someone tries to poach them, or they just get fired. And then in baseball, it's the same way, except the league expects fans to keep paying to see mediocre baseball, which it essentially becomes minor league ball. And you can look at the Pirates, and I've been saying, and a lot of people argue otherwise. They're like, well, look at some of the players that came through. Yeah, look at some of the players that come through minor league baseball. You're bound to catch a gem every couple years, but if you don't sign them and keep them, and your excuse is, well, we need the money on the back end, the easy fix would be some type of salary cap. I don't even think it would help a team like the Pirates that aren't willing to spend.
But we go round and round with the Pirates, and this was one of the I think the arguments that hurts them is that they always said, well, we need to develop the minor league system. They traded a lot of stuff away. The minor league system was having some problems, so they said, well, we're going to trade current players, current assets, and acquire the minor league talent to be able to promote guys from within. Great model, building from within. Successful programs do that, where you find the right guys, you bring them up through, and as they reach that top pinnacle, you keep them. And the issue that has happened with the Pirates is that they've brought guys up through, they hit the majors, and then right at the point where it's time to pay them, they decide, they're not really worth, whatever their contract demands are, and then they let them walk and they sign deals with the bigger market teams. So that's where it hurts them. Is it which end is it that you don't want to pay the major league players? Is it that the farm system's bad? They don't do a good job of communicating where they feel like they're at as a program. And I think if they were if they were honest about where they were, I mean, even just to say, like, it would suck to say it, but to just come out and be like, we tried to acquire these minor league prospects, and some of the guys that we've acquired, they haven't been panning out the way that we thought. That at least gives the mindset that, hey, this is where the problem is. We're addressing it, and then putting the good faith out there that it's going to be resolved, that you're doing things to make it improve.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that hurts Major League Baseball, it's not even like how many players come through and how you're trying to balance all of that. I think it comes down to like the extra exposure too. How many cities are doubled up? Which I think now is idiotic. I understand back in the day when you didn't have travel, but like Chicago doesn't need two teams. The White Sox are essentially ignored. I saw some people complaining because in the latest, is it a 30 for 30, the one on Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire, I don't know, they skipped the part where Sosa was a White Sox for a while. Like someone said, like in the documentary, they make it seem like he went to the Rangers, from the Rangers to the Cubs, when he actually went from, I think, the White Sox to the Cubs in a trade. Like, I think it was even a straight up trade. And so how crazy is that you have two teams in a media market, one gets completely ignored. Why not space that out? Like, that's the one thing that I think basketball has over it. Look at the success of Memphis whenever they were going out there, even in hockey, how Memphis packs a stadium. Why wouldn't you be able to get a Major League Baseball team there? Why not split up some of these other teams like the Mets? No one takes them serious from an outside perspective because they're going to be dwarfed by the Yankees every single day. It doesn't help.
But I think with the Mets, they've had a relatively recent exposure to playing well, to having success, and they've shown that they'll go out and overspend on prospects. They'll go out and sign someone to a large deal. So I mean, maybe they're not efficiently spending money, but it's not our money to spend anyhow. So who cares? To me, I give more of a tip of a cap to the Mets that are struggling, at least trying to spend the money and do things to make moves to make their team better, than the Pirates that sit on their hands and say, well, we gotta save some money, and they're pocketing TV revenue and everything else.
Well, I'm just saying, what if this lockout, because that's essentially what it's turning into, turns into more of a restructuring for Major League Baseball? They're really hurting for cash, like they're whining about. Move some of these teams. Like, if you're going to spend money, why not move the Mets, like, to say Memphis, or somewhere where if you're spending money, fans will come and see you play. Or like in Tampa, where they had some fans for a while, then they realized, oh my gosh, we're the Marlins. Like, we're never going to compete with the Yankees. We're just not going to show up. And then they're kind of stuck there. Like, like I've been saying the whole time, what is the harm of relocating in today's climate where you have technology at your fingertips every day? People rebrand. Look at the Rams with their stupid uniforms, or the Chargers. Like they dwarfed it because they had an awesome logo, Matt, and they wanted to make it more consumer friendly, so they made it like a kid version of that. But at some point, it's like, why are you doing that? Who is this for? And like even in the NFL, they're starting to get all these teams in LA. Why? No one in LA even goes to the games. Like, why are you trying to shove more people in? You're not going to get any more TV exposure. I just never understood that mindset. It was like whenever the Pac-12 was doing their negotiations, and Texas, or like I don't know if people realize this, but when the Pac-12 and Nebraska, or I guess it wasn't the Pac, Nebraska and Colorado were leaving the Big 12. Colorado went to the Pac-12. Nebraska went to the Big 10. And Texas was looked at by the Pac-12 to go along with maybe Oklahoma. That could have changed college football forever. Like our 14 playoff might be here to stay because at that point there would have been 4 major conferences. But the rumors were there was some back and forth, and I don't know how much of this is true because Texas A&M was leaving to go to the SEC, and I think Texas said that they wanted more Texas schools to go with them, whether it was Texas Tech instead of like I think they were trying to get Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma. Like they were trying to pick the big city schools. So it was like or big state schools. They wanted Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and like one other one. I don't remember who it was exactly, but Texas said like, no, we want more Texas schools instead. Like forget Kansas, leave them in the dust. And the Pac-12 said like no, and then their negotiations broke off. And so at this point now the Pac-12, they're in a world of hurt. If they would have just told Texas like, yeah, bring whoever you want, because now you have your connectors in like Arizona and you're way over there, that would have flipped college football on its head. You would have your first 16-team conference. I forget which team because I'm going off my head and not by my notes, but that's something where they could have locked down an entire region of football. And so now you're looking at Major League Baseball. They're in the same situation. They're cutting minor league teams because they don't know if they're going to have money to open back up or whatever because they keep crying poor. But at some point, how are you funding all these farm teams? How are you doing all this other stuff? Like I said, I understand why they keep telling big salary guys to take cuts. They're showing up to play the games. They already cut the minor league salaries. So, I don't know. I just don't think that it's going to come back, and I think it's going to flip the sport on its head. And like my dream would be them just to come back and say, let's do the relegation like we talked about. Let minor league teams become major league teams. Otherwise, their big complaint right now is that only major markets like New York and Chicago even bring in money.
But I'm wondering if some of these smaller markets that even if you do put a team in Memphis or you put some of these other places, you're seeing with the AAF and you're seeing with some of those other startup leagues like the original XFL that they're trying to put teams in other places and it doesn't necessarily pick up. So I mean maybe the teams like Major League Baseball are looking at some of these startup leagues and saying, well, were these other locations, were they even generating any kind of revenue? Because if they weren't generating revenue in that short period of time, what's to say that the investment of bringing in, another baseball team to that location is going to do anything for it? Will it just be diluting what's already out there?
I just think that they can go the other way with it and really push it. Like if the Mets were to leave New York, and then cable channels were trying to give the Yankees, because I think what's going to happen is it's going to turn into some type of revenue sharing, which they don't have right now. So if you look at like what the NFL's done, they're telling cities like, yo, if you don't put the NFL on, we're just not going to show you any games. Like right now, they tell us in North Carolina that our teams are either the Washington Nationals, the Baltimore Orioles, or the Atlanta Braves. So if I were to get Major League Baseball, like MLB TV, I can't watch any of those 3 teams because they're blacked out. And then how many games do they play? They play like...
You'd have that locally, though, wouldn't you?
If I wanted to pay for cable, because they're not on regular TV anymore. Major League Baseball is like hidden on like these weird cable channels. So I have to pay over $100 to get that and Major League Baseball TV when my team's out of town or whatever, because we don't have a set team. So like, what would be the reason for anyone in North Carolina with millions of people to follow baseball? Why not bring the Mets down? And then you have a team, even if like they're not getting the attendance, then like the Big Ten did whenever they brought Rutgers in, They said, look, your state needs our channel. Like you need it to be on regular cable. It doesn't need to be on the sports package. And those states said yes. That's why the Big Ten made so much money. And that's why I don't understand why baseball's not doing that. Do what the Big Ten did and move your teams to markets that they don't have. Move to Tennessee. I don't know how many people are in the state of Tennessee, but I mean, like they have Georgia cornered. You have some teams in Florida. If Tampa Bay's not working out, move to Orlando. Do some joint deal. That's where Disney is, and that's where ESPN has their stuff. That's where the NBA is talking about playing. Do some stuff there. I mean, I don't see the harm in that. Whenever you're trying to really diversify, but right now you're just concentrating multiple teams to the big cities, and then you're complaining that only those cities tune in. And like you said, those cities have two owners that are really actually spending money. So like flip the Pirates and the Mets owner, which city the Pirates would be 100 times happier. Pittsburgh would probably be, they were already top 5 in TV. Like why not? If Pittsburgh's able to get top television viewership, how do you know one of these other states isn't able to pick that up? Because they saw that with some of the hockey stuff. Like even the Carolina Hurricanes for a while were one of the tops in attendance and TV and stuff whenever they were winning the Stanley Cup and things like that. Things really bottomed out there when they didn't make the playoffs for like 10 years in a row. But when you're losing that much, it's bound to fall off. So,
but I'm wondering, and I don't have any numbers to back it up, but if you're going to flatline, is your ceiling worse, or is your floor worse being in a high market area like LA compared to some of these other places?
I would say no. And the NFL is a perfect example of that. How many teams do they have to move in and out of LA before they realize, hey, they don't care? So, like, you already moved. How many times are they going to move the California Angels, or what they used to be called? Then they were the LA Angels. Then they're the Anaheim Angels. Then they're the LA Angels. I don't even know what they are now. At some point, it's just like, yay, how about we move them out of California and give them an identity? Why not move them to Las Vegas? The Las Vegas Angels in the city of sinners, dude. That's a badass team. Write that down. Write that down and get on the phone and have them move there with the Raiders. Because you have the Raiders and then the Angels. Like that would instantly become a tourist destination for a city that has a bunch of other stuff. But I think what people say is like, oh, if they're going to be there, blah, blah, they're not going to come and do this other stuff. Like, but if you're really trying to get people or build an identity and expand your brand, how many people just hang out in Las Vegas and don't do anything else? You can't gamble all day if you run out of money. You have a cheap baseball attraction to get outside. I mean, casinos are indoors. You got to get that vitamin D. So I think it's a hell of an idea. And I mean, there are other cities. It doesn't just have to be those ones. I mean, like even Seattle, like when they put Seattle in, like that worked out pretty well. So I don't know. I mean, when you're looking at that type of stuff, and then you look at the NBA and their actual plan is that they're going to have basically an all-in-one kind of Orlando campus where players just hang out. And they said, I think the goal was to have every team except for 6 left or something like that, 12 teams left. So almost all the teams are gone after the first couple weeks because they would be eliminated. Bring all the teams down. But like I said, they should have just did a single elimination tournament. It would have been so much better. And TV networks would have drooled over it. But right now they're like, we just want any programming that we can put on. But you can't tell me that wouldn't have made a splash. Like, I mean, to have Jordan, like you could have focused even on Jordan because his Hornets would have been there.
Yeah, but then you're playing with fire because the NBA wants to have it set up so that they're getting the Lakers going deep. They want the Clippers going deep. You know, if you have that one game playing.
Yeah, but they're already in. I think those teams are already locked up spots. This is more for like the bottom feeders. So like these are like the smaller market ones. Like if I'm looking at it, they're going to take the Charlotte Hornets down there with Michael Jordan. I don't think they have a chance to make the playoffs. So I think they're bringing them in. I could be wrong. But like I'm just using them as an example. They're going to bring in some of these teams that realistically have zero chance to make the playoffs because they would have to win out and have some other teams lose. Let's say let's say the last team in. What's the point of them even showing up? If you're a player on that team, why would you even come and risk getting sick? like, family, I got to leave. I got to go play a couple exhibition games because that's what they're becoming. They're essentially preseason to have the teams warm up. And they just wanted to have something for the television networks. When if they would have said, you know what, we're going to do a single elimination, or hell, even make it a double elimination, people wouldn't care. And then a double elimination tournament might have been sweet. That's like how college baseball does it. So you have it come in, and then you can get the teams out faster. They're gone in 2 games. You fly them out, but they're going to give them a players' lounge where they can play NBA 2K. They're going to have barbers and manicurists. Is that fingernails, toenails? I don't know.
Manicure.
Don't know what that is. But Matt does. They're going to have a 24-hour VIP, movie screenings, DJs, and the ability to go to other games. Because what else? You're not doing anything else, Matt. So you can go watch other teams play. But you can't leave. I don't think so. And I think it was the NFL. I'm sure the NBA is going to do something similar, but they're going to test for coronavirus 3 times a week. So you're constantly getting swabbed to make sure it's not just like a checklist. They're going to kind of go down through that, but they're actually going to be doing tests. And I had even called this a couple weeks ago because I had said they're going to do a Wednesday test to make sure who can travel. Then they're going to do like a Saturday test to make sure who can play on Sunday. And then after the game, they're going to do like a follow-up test to see who can practice. Like on Mondays, when do they do film session? I think they usually have Mondays off in the NFL. I could be wrong. I think they do film session Tuesday. Like you would check in with your first screening before you can go to regular practice on Wednesday. Then, because like let's be honest, the NFL, they're getting their test results immediately. They probably even have a doctor right there running them. So like they're just going to spread them out so that they know who's sick and who's going to play. Now, is it going to work? I don't know, because like I told Matt, what happens if one whole position group gets sick? You lose all your wideouts.
Figure it out.
You go back, you're just running options.
You're running basically your backyard football.
I mean, that could be happening.
I mean, or you look and you see what the free agent pool looks like. Because if you have, say you have your 6 receivers on staff and they're all contracted, they're going to be out at least 2 weeks. If they're showing symptoms, they're going to be out. What will probably happen is they'll find 6 people in free agency, sign them to contracts, and they'll be there for that period of time until the other guys come back.
Yeah, but then even then, you're still going to have a quarantine period. If you're bringing someone else in, they're not just going to let any guy come in. They're probably going to have to come in. I would imagine have some type of room where you get tested, wait for your results. If you're positive, you're out.
Well, right. I mean,
or you're just going to be sitting around.
Or I mean, I'm sure that there's going to be some team that would be smart enough just to say, hey, we're going to keep a handful of guys, like make sure that you stay in quarantine and be ready to go so that if this happens preventatively, that, that they can be able to pull those people in.
And then you also have the problem with travel because they're going to be traveling from stadium to stadium or state to state if they're even doing all that. And then, like, are they going to have fans at all? Because right now, like the Steelers, they're canceling their Friday night practice under the lights. That's been an annual tradition. They're going to cancel that because they just don't want fans coming in contact with them. So that's where you keep having all these tests and all this stuff. But if you're going to have players under $1 million contracts, you're not going to bring them into the stadium and then fill it with a bunch of fans that may or not be coughing towards the field, because where else are they looking? I mean, you can force them to wear a mask or whatever, and that might help cut down the transmission. But I mean,
let's be honest.
I don't know.
You're gonna if they force people to wear a mask, half of them aren't even going to wear it right. Or
I've seen some videos where people are cutting holes in the mat to make it easier to breathe.
Yeah.
So
even if you're saying, hey, wear your mask, it's not saying that people are wearing it correctly or that there's going to be people there policing it saying, hey, you're not wearing your mask. That's an ineligible mask.
And the other thing that comes with it is concessions. They all keep talking about how they're going to be bringing food and drinks. How are you going to eat through a mask? So you're going to be wearing the mask like a bandana.
Just pulling it up and sliding the food.
It's just down. And then how many beers would be spilled? It would just be covered in beer. So
Very sanitary.
They have-
The alcohol will kill the germs.
they have to sell the alcohol, Matt. That's how they make their money. And then you have guys leaning over, still throwing beer cups as players as they walk through the tunnel. You're still going to have all that stuff. That's what I understand. Have they never seen a Miami Hurricanes football game? They barely have any fans, and they're still yelling and throwing stuff whenever they're going into the tunnel. That's just how it works. So I'm looking at this, and I see, oh, yeah, they might cancel the Hall of Fame game. They're going to do this and that. And I just don't think it's going to be as smooth as what they say. And I want it to come back, but the big one that I've always said is baseball. And I hate to just start randomly talking about baseball all the time, but that would have been the easiest sport to come back. Players are naturally distanced on the field. You can spread out fans. A lot of them don't even get fans anyway. Have the Rays host a 30-game homestand. And then just have that data for the NFL that's also playing in outdoor stadiums and doing all this other stuff. But the NBA doing their little thing, that data doesn't translate to the NFL. And the NHL, did they set any dates? I haven't even seen anything. We'll look it up just to make sure. But circling back to, because that reminds me, the Penguins, before they drafted Sidney Crosby, they were dead last in attendance. So people were always like, oh, well, some small markets, they just suck. They'll never get fans. Penguins are dead last. You draft one superstar for some of these baseball teams, and that town rallies around them. You never know what type of attendance they're going to pick up. And now, how many Pittsburgh Penguins fans are diehards because of that era, winning a couple cups? So just looking at it now, if you're going to shut down baseball completely, let's mix it up and try to get young kids into it by, actually having a team near them, or at least spread out a little bit more so that they're not all in the same cities. And the NFL could do the same thing. I like the Raiders are moving, but doesn't LA both have the Rams and the Chargers now? Why? Why have the Jets and the Giants? But yet they keep talking about moving Jacksonville. Keep them there. How about you move them to Orlando? Or move them to another city in Florida, one of the most populous states.
In a state where they're allowing they're going to have more things open and more things available. You move things north, and you're in these states that have primarily Democratic governments. They're Democrat-run governments. They're going to be more likely to shut down and rein things. And because you're seeing the states that are opening up quicker, the states like Georgia, like Florida, like Texas, that their legislators are being more open and willing to let things get back to normal quicker. So, I think that also is should play a factor when you're looking at places to move. You said earlier about the Hall of Fame game. They could probably move it to Orlando or something like that and probably wouldn't even miss a beat because it's going to be open.
The Hall of Fame's not there, Matt. What would they call it?
They could still just call it the Hall of Fame night because it'd still be the weekend if they're doing that. They could still announce all the stuff, but then just have the game.
But the Hall of Fame's not open. Can't go in there.
They could be in the outdoor venue where the players get enshrined. So the players and their families could be there. They could treat it like a high school graduation. Family members could sit in their cars and they can watch.
Graduation these days are on Zoom, Matt. You just call their name and they hold up a card.
And they have that part, and then you have the game being played remotely. It can still be done.
Speaking of Hall of Fame stuff, I've seen people going after my man Barry Bonds. There's no way you can vote no for him for the Hall of Fame.
Yes, you can.
Why?
Because he wore that gigantic restricting brace.
Oh, I don't know about his earring. Cross earring. I thought that's where you're going with it.
No, this elbow brace.
Did you think that was a loaded spring arm?
Oh, I bet it was.
It was a bionic arm.
It had everything but a juicer in it.
Hey, all I'm saying is they glorify Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. Why? Those guys were losers. They don't have the home run record.
they have Big Mac Land.
Is that a McDonald's reference?
No, it's his section where he crushes home runs.
St. Louis still has that.
I don't know if they still have it. I saw it in Old Bush.
That's funny if they did keep that. That'd be like if the Pirates still had like a Roberto Clemente section 30 years later.
I think they do. They probably do.
Well, they retired his number. That's different than having a home run section. But Barry Bonds, in. And if they don't vote for him, they're idiots. Because didn't they vote in Edgar Martinez?
I think they did.
Like, let's just pick some random guy. Oh, he hit the ball good. They're like, well, Barry Bonds, he hit the ball good, but he wasn't a good fielder. Edgar Martinez sucks so much at fielding, they didn't even let him try it. They're like, son, you need to sit this one out. Like Barry Bonds, they wanted him to be DH, and it was above him to even consider it. He said, no, I don't want to go to an AL team, because a lot of AL teams were pursuing him hard when he retired. And then he said, no, I want to stay with the Giants or whatever. They didn't renew his contract. I forget how it went. Media always hated him. Whenever the media hates someone, I've seen that they write a lot of like hate articles about them. Like there are some Chicago newspapers that still hate on a lot of like the Big Ten football teams. And if you read an article on them, it's like they're laughing when something bad happens. And it's like, why are you writing this? Like, are you hoping that Northwestern or Illinois somehow benefits from Michigan or Ohio State losing in the NCAA tournament? Northwestern has never made like the NCAA tournament. They made it like maybe one time. I don't even know. But like, why would you want one of the bigger schools from your conference to lose? Is like a weird line of thinking. So like when baseball writers are like, we're going to make our Hall of Fame look weird by having a record book that doesn't include one of the guys.
But I must think that when you're looking at some of that voting, some of it comes down to, did that player do something to them? And it turns into this like, I'm going to settle this score now. You didn't let me interview you during whatever, so now I'm just going to keep you out because I have the power to do that.
Yeah, and like I said, these guys, they're losers. They don't even know, like no one knows their names. Like, do you know any of the voters for the Hall of Fame? I don't know any. Maybe is Buster Olney, does he have one? Does he work for ESPN?
He might.
I think he was writing an article that was annoying me because he was like, why can't they just get along, the players and the owners? It's like, what are you talking about, buddy? Like the sport is dying because no one wants to watch it because it's boring and it takes forever. And then they have 300 commercials jammed in. Like, they need to change something. I've came up with plenty of ideas on the show. You're a baseball writer. Come up with some of your own. Instead of just saying, they should just play. They're ruining the season. Like, who cares about that? But Barry Bonds, it's going to look so stupid if the home run leader is not in the Hall of Fame. Because they're still going to have that record book there. Kids are going to walk through the halls and say, hey, where's that guy? I want to go read about him. And they're like, oh, son, he's not in it because people didn't like him.
He's a cheater.
And he's like, oh, he was on steroids, but what about these other guys? Are you going to put A-Rod in?
Oh, guaranteed he gets put in.
But he's a known cheater. He actually got caught. Wasn't he suspended? Barry Bonds never got caught. They're just pretending he was on steroids. You don't know?
I don't know.
We don't know. I mean, they also pretended that Peyton Manning's wife was on HGH when that got shipped to his house. Because that's the same exact thing. Peyton Manning getting a shipment of HGH to his house, then saying it's for his wife. Barry Bonds never even had that.
But look at that brace. This change. It went from this small Under Armour sleeve to this gigantic. Don't tell me that it didn't give him some kind of mechanical advantage.
If he had a bionic arm and no one thought to check it, and you're bringing it up 20 years later, more power to him. People had pine tar. What about George Brett? He had pine tar the whole way up the bat, making the ball stick right to it like a bunt.
I mean, this is what people do to try to keep him out. They're grasping at straws. So this could be a straw that, if you really want to say, well, we couldn't prove it, but you can progressively watch. The bigger the brace got, the more home runs he hit.
That's just still trying to make a thing. He's still in the record book. It'd be like them just taking, like, who has the most touchdowns? Is it Peyton Manning? And they're like, yeah, we can't put him in His wife was on HGH. What if it leaked into his system? And then they were like, oh, but what are we going to do when the kids go and they see the record book in the Hall of Fame? What are we going to do? We're going to put an asterisk beside his name?
See, you just hit the nail on the head. All Barry Bonds needs to do is start doing all kinds of really bad advertisements and he'd be right in. Because no one's going to bat an eye because they're like, oh, Peyton Manning, he does like 700 commercials. I see him on TV all the time. Boom, in.
That's very true. I think Pete Rose could do the same thing. Does he have the most hits, Mr. 3000? He just needs a commercial on TV so people are asking questions about him.
I'm sure one of those betting sites would gladly offer him money. It's legalized now. He'd be like, hey, you can place a legal bet.
Like every time Barry Bonds, because they still try to interview him, he should just make them address him as Home Run King Barry Bonds. Barry, the Home Run King Bonds is here with us. Because then baseball looks like even more idiots whenever they don't put him in the Hall of Fame. Matt, because how many people are even close to his home run record? No one, right?
I don't know.
Even the guys that are like superstars, like I don't think Trout's close these days. But we'll have to look into those numbers. But I don't think anyone's really close. Like I think the one before was like they were like even people were cheering for like A-Rod to stay in the game to get close because they're like, oh, that's a guy we could get behind. A guy that said he did take steroids. It's almost like they just want Barry to come out and say, you know what? I did do it. People will be like, all right, I can vote for you now. But it's like they almost want that validation, but I don't know. I mean, just give me something. Get him in. Pete Rose in, too. It's pretty embarrassing.
That's a trap.
Whenever you have guys at the top of the record book and they're not in the Hall of Fame because of reasons.
Because of reasons.
And then the kids are like, yeah, what about this guy? Oh, yeah, we'll gladly show his highlights and stuff on TV whenever we can make money off it. But we can't put him in our Hall of Fame. Like, no way. People still know his name. How many other Hall of Fame guys do people have never heard of? Even guys like Edgar Martinez? Or is it? Yeah, it's Edgar Martinez. Isn't he the one in? How many kids even know who that is, but don't know who Pete Rose is? Like, if I didn't play video games growing up in the 90s, I wouldn't have known who he was. He was on Ken Griffey Jr.'s team. That's how I know him. His guy didn't play the field. It wasn't good enough. I'm sure his fake fan account will be after us soon, just like Tony Dungy was. But I don't know. You got anything else?
That's about it.
I know I tried to get extra things for the show this week. Looks like things are going to come back. Not 100% sure. The WNBA, they're coming back, but they're going to have a 22-game regular season. And I told Matt I was going to have a joke about that being more like a high school season. But then it turns out they only had 34 games in their regular season. And for some reason, I thought it was like 48. I thought, or what's half of 82? 41? I thought it was half of the NBA season. But nope. So I guess I didn't even know. But like, if they're going to come back, and the NHL is not going to come back yet. They're still in voluntary workouts. I don't remember if I brought this up. So they're still doing voluntary workouts. Supposed to have a schedule set for the round robin. I don't know if they even picked venues yet. Some teams are already talking about sitting their starters during the round robin. Because like I said weeks ago, it's dumb to include so many teams because they don't care. Now you're including bottom feeding teams that even teams 1 through 3 probably destroyed in the regular season. They're hoping that they lose early and then they get to play them. So they're like, yeah, we can play those losing teams and we'll crush them. So we don't even need our starters. So it'll be one of those years where whoever is best prepared, Joe Gibbs style, will win the championship. Other random news. The Big Ten Conference puts together a 10K every year for charity, Matt, in Chicago. Well, this year they went virtual, so I signed myself up. I'm dedicating myself to get in shape in 5 weeks. So I'm repping a Michigan shirt on the video today, my hoodie actually, and going to be talking about it on the show. Give us something else a little bit extra to talk about.
Show notes for next week. Shin splints. Coming to you live.
No, because I have a nice progressive plan. I just start running 5 miles every day.
What could possibly go wrong?
No, I'm going to have to be strategic about it. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to get my legs in shape first, because I feel like once your legs go, as long as they don't give out, you can carry yourself. They did have a 5K option, but you get a T-shirt, and I thought it'd be kind of weird if I was wearing a 10K shirt around when I only ran a 5K. I don't know if they give out 5K shirts. I couldn't find information on that, because it'd be easy to get in shape for a 5K though. So I figured the 10K would be a little bit better for the show. But I'll be posting my stuff. I'll post my sign up on Twitter. Richie Leahy, you can follow me. And I'll do my thing, and then I'll try to get my time. My goal is, they said the average time for the Big 10K is between 50 and 70 minutes. So I'm aiming for that. We'll see what happens. So as long as I don't walk, and I just keep a nice, even jog, I should be fine. Why are you laughing? You could hit that pace. I see you posting your jogs.
I could.
How long did it take you to get that pace down?
Long time.
Well, I will say, when I played baseball, dude, I would always come into the season vastly out of shape. Because just like Le'Veon Bell and Scottie Pippen, why get in shape on my time? Yeah, you gotta get in shape on company time. That's why I'm sitting here talking to you instead of playing in the majors. But I did know that as long as you're consistent with it and you start small, you can get in shape fairly quick now. I'm much further out of shape than I was back in my college days. So we need to groove into it.
This is shaping up to be a great challenge.
It's going to be great. Matt, like I said, I will crawl. I don't even care. I'm going to finish that challenge because I got a Garmin watch that has a GPS on it, so it tracks your runs and like shows a little map, I think. I was trying to test it out today just for a little thing. And I had some that I did running around Raleigh. I guess it really wasn't running. It's more like walks. But I'm going to start to track that, and then that should give me my time. And then we'll see. So we'll check in next Tuesday. We'll get in with that. And I apologize for people that listened to the show last week. There was some echo that got picked up. We didn't know. So there was no way for me really to fix it. So some people said that it was the best show they've heard because they really couldn't hear my arguments, Matt.
There you go.
Rude. But I think we'll see if an auto transcriber can pick up the text, and we'll post it on our website. I'll see if I can get that done this week, but we'll try our best on that. But hopefully this week sounds better. We're in the same room, so it should. But if there's anything you want us to hit on coming up this summer besides me, my actual doing some athletics, man, running. That's the farthest race I've ever run. I've run 5K in the past, and it wasn't the best, maybe like 25 minutes. I don't remember what my time was. But it was in the 20s, like a casual, nice pace. So I figure 10K, around 60 minutes. My training was actually almost identical. I think I have 5 weeks, 6 days right now, according to the Big Ten website. That's about how long I trained for the other one, the 5K. This is just double. But that was also 5 years ago. So I'm past my prime. When they say your prime is 27, that's not coming back, baby. So thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.